Hello and welcome to the Scratch Soccer Heads game tutorial, where we show you how we can do a side-scrolling or a side-on soccer tutorial or football tutorial for the rest of us. So we've got two players, there's one, there we go, and the other player's here. So it's a two-player game and it's got full physics and we can shoot, there we go. And at the moment we've got the game, so it's best of 5. Let's go. There you go. And we play it to 5 plays. Okay.
Hello and welcome to another Learn Scratch tutorial. Today we're going to be showing you how you can make a football heads type or soccer heads type game where you have two players, one on this side, one on this side. It's a side-on game, two-dimensional game. You have a football net here, and the player moves, and whenever you press space or whatever you're using for kick, then the body moves and it kicks the ball, and you've got to try and get it into the other person's net. So first thing we need to do is we need Scratch the Cat, and we need 2 lots of Scratch the Cat. So there's Scratch 1, there's Scratch 2, and the reason we need 2 is because we're going to have that one's going to be the head and that's going to be the body. So let's just rename that to Player 1 head. Good. And that one's going to be Player 1 body. Good. So excellent. There we go. And we'll click on the costumes. We're going to use which one should we have? We'll have the first costume. We'll just use the first costume. We're not going to need the second costume today, so let's get rid of the second costume on both of them. Good. Now this one here, we're going to keep the head because that's Player 1 head. So at the moment we're in vector mode because it says vector mode, which is useful. So we can click on the cat and we'll click on this button here because at the moment we can't edit individual bits, so we need to ungroup it. And this will allow us to select individual bits, which I can then delete. Nice and quick. So there we go. So we've got Player 1 head there. Brilliant. Now let's click onto the Player 1 body. And again, click on the cat. Click on ungroup. And we get rid of the head. And the nose and the mouth. Brilliant. There we go. There we go. So we got, there he is. There's Scratch the Cat. And the reason we got them separately is because what's going to happen when the head moves, the body's going to move, but when you press space bar or whatever you're going to use for kick, the body is going to pivot. It wants to pivot up. So because they need to do separate things, we've got to be separate sprites. There we go. So there's Player 1 head, there's Player 1 body. What we'll do now is we're going to get the body to follow the head around wherever it is. So click on Events, click on When Start Clicked, and we're going to set up a forever loop which repeats forever. And all this forever loop is going to do is it's going to go to the X and Y coordinate of whatever the head is. So the way we do that is we go into the sensing, and we go put the X position of Player 1 head, and that will be the Y position of Player 1 head. And now, if we start anywhere where my cat moves, the head moves, the body follows, which is brilliant. So let's just have a quick look now, which is good. So that's fine. Let's make sure that, oops, well, that's no good. A bit like The Exorcist. We didn't want those blocks in there. Just to demonstrate, we need to put it in the body. Here we go. And hopefully if we click on the buttons, there you go. So as you can see, doesn't matter where the head goes, the body will go with it, and it can pivot as well. But it's sort of pivoting there. It kind of looks like his head's about to fall off. And the reason being is that the center of the costume is, well, the little center is there, it's just above the body. So what I'll do is I'll click on that centralize. Let's just lower it. There we go. There we go. Let's try that now. So now, if we go there, there you go. That's a bit better. We're kicking. There we go. Good. Maybe move it up slightly. About there. There you go. Good. Good. Excellent. That's good. So, next thing we're going to do is we're going to get it so that when you press the right key, or whatever you use the right key, we're going to move him left and right. That's nice and easy. Let's just reset his costume. Point direction 90. There we go. Good. So, how do we do that? Well, on the player one head, here we go. When start clicked, forever. Here we go. Good stuff. Now, if we're holding, let's say we're going to use the A and D key for left and right, what we want to do is when we hold the D down, we want to increase the acceleration of the, increase the velocity of the cat, which which one is it? X velocity of the cat. So let's just make a variable. Let's call it X velocity. Oh, player one X velocity. Velocity means speed in a certain direction. This one is the velocity in the X, which of course is X is across. Good stuff. And what we say here is, there you go, forever, if I'm holding down the, let's say the D key, that's the way it's going to work. If we're holding down the D key, then we increase the velocity. There we go. So we'll just set it to full speed. So set the velocity to 10. Good stuff. So if I'm pressing right, we set the velocity to 10, which you're going to use to move that way. If I am pressing the left key, which is going to be A, then we set it to -10 because our velocity is going to go left -10. Good. And what we do now is we say, okay, if our, let's put this here. So once we've got to speed up left or right, to move left and right, what we need to do now is do a bit of drag so that if we let go of the A key or the D key, then we start to slow down. And the way we do this is we say, okay, if our velocity is greater than 0, if our X velocity is greater than 0, then we take a little bit off. Change X velocity by -1, and there we go. If our X velocity is less than 0, which would be that one, if our X velocity is less than 0, then we change our velocity by 1. There we go. So that's fine, that's okay. And now if we press this here, there we go. But what we want to say actually is at the start of the game set our velocity to 0, because otherwise we get this crazy value when we're debugging it. But there we go. So now if I hold it, you can see here, if I hold the left button, it starts at -9 and then it goes up and then down. So all we need to do now is we change our X value by whatever our whatever our velocity is. There you go, good. So now what happens, there we go left, we go right, we go left, and it's a nice smooth motion. That's why we've got this slightly more complex than normal movement, but it's a nice smooth motion. He speeds up and he slows down. Good. Excellent. So that's our X velocity sorted for our player one. Good, when he's moving. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a player one jumping, which is good. And we do a similar sort of thing. Here we go. So when start clicked, there we go. Forever. Good stuff. Good. Brilliant. Forever. And if we, what we want to say is if we press space, if we're pressing space, there we go. If space, there we go. If we're pressing space and we're touching the floor, then we need to jump. So if we're pressing space and we're touching the floor, we need to increase our vertical velocity, our Y velocity, because we've covered left and right, but we're going to do a similar thing now with the Y velocity. If spacebar is pressed and we're touching the floor, then we'll do that. Well, how are we going to do touching the floor? Well, first thing we need to do is we need to create a floor. So let's click on the stage, let's go into the backdrops, zoom out, we've got nice and zoomed out, and I'm going to have a brown floor, that colour, that'll do. Click on the rectangle, make sure it's solid, and let's do a nice, there we go, nice solid floor. There you go, good. So there's our floor. Well, why have we done the floor? Well, the reason being is, now that we've got a floor, what we can do here is we can look, if you look just here where I've got the Y coordinate, minus 160, there you go. So minus 160. And actually, that head's probably about there, isn't it? Minus 100. Let's have a look. What we can say is, if we press the space bar and our y coordinate is less than, let's say, minus 120. So if our player one head, there we go. If our space is pressed and our y coordinate, our y position is less than minus 120, then we can jump. Minus 120. We can always adjust these later. Here we go. Let's move that out of the way for the moment. Let's put that in there. If space bar pressed in our position is less than minus 120, then we need to set our vertical velocity, which we haven't got. So let's create that as P1y velocity. Good. Player 1 y velocity. Set our player 1 y velocity to 20. Good. Excellent. And we do the same thing as before. Good stuff. So gravity, similar sort of thing. What we'll do is we'll change. There we go. Change our y velocity by -1. Good. And that should make us move down. So change and that'll act as gravity, and then finally we will set change our y value by whatever our velocity is. Let's try that. And actually, similar sort of thing though. Let's set our y velocity to 0 at the start of the game as well. So let's try that. So, oops, poor Scratch's head has fallen down. There we go. Oops. Let's move him back up there. Good. So at the moment he's falling down. So let's have a look at why he's falling down. There we go. So if we press space and our y position is greater than minus 120, then we set it so we go further down. There you go. We change by -1, which is okay. Good. Okay. Excellent. We change by 20. So what's happening here, of course, is we've not said that if he gets below a certain point, he's got to stop. So what do we do with that? Well, let's just add another if statement. There we go. Let's put that there. Let's put that there. There we go. And what we say now is we say, okay, if our y position is less than 120, then we set our velocity to 0. Oh, in fact, I've just noticed as well, that's probably why that needs to be y velocity there. And that needs to be y velocity there. Now, hopefully, let's have a look. Let's go and set it to 20. There we go. That's going to be minus. There we go. Perfect. Good. I don't know why it's bouncing. Oh. There we go. Okay, perfect. And oh, that's because that's got to be 0. That's why. There you go. Perfect. Good. There we go. Now, that's brilliant. That's okay. I think what's happening here is this minus 120. Let's have a quick look. Oops, it needs to be maybe minus 110. Let's try that. Minus 110. There you go. You'll have to play with these figures till they work. Let's try that one. Let's start them up here. Yeah, that's probably about right, isn't it? Good. Okay, excellent. Good. And 9. That's probably about right, is it? Okay, let's have a quick look. Okay, so we're almost there. But the space bar isn't working. Let's have a look. And the reason is, let's look, if space is pressed and the y position is less than 109, what is his y position? Minus, oh, that should be okay. It should be jumping. But what's happening here, of course, is it sets the velocity to 20, so it goes up to 20. Then we change it by -1, which is 9, which means it's 19. But then, of course, if our position is still less than 110, which it is, then we set the velocity to 0, so it resets itself. So what we need to do here is, let's just add another one of there, and let's change that. There we go. Perfect. There we go. So now, there we go. We've got an excellent jumping cat, which is brilliant. Good. It would appear that 20 is a little bit high because he goes a bit crazy. So let's make that by 10. Let's try that. And there we go. That's a bit more like, isn't it? That's a good size for a jump. So now we can make him move left and right and jump up and down, which is brilliant. Good. Good. So we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere there. Good. So next thing, we've got him jumping. We've got him moving left and right. Now we want to try and do the legs. So what's going to happen with the legs is whenever I press space, it's simply going to do a pivot motion. It's going to go that way a bit, and then it's going to go back again. So let's have a go. Here we go. Forever. Let's have a look. We'll do another forever loop because I don't want it interfering with that one. But let's say forever. Here we go. If the space bar is pressed, let's have a look. If the space bar is pressed, here we go. In fact, we better set that to Let's set him to the proper size. If the space bar is pressed, what we're going to do, let's do a quick repeat. And if space bar is pressed, if space bar, do a quick repeat. We'll just do it 4 times. And you'll have to, again, you can mess with this to make sure it works right. And simply put, all we'll do is we'll go anti-clockwise 4 times. And then we'll go clockwise 4 times. Let's see if that works. Get rid of that one. If the space key is pressed, anti-clockwise and then forward. Oh, not space key, so that's the same as the jump key, isn't it? So that's no good. In fact, let's swap it. Here we go. Let's change it so that, let's do the up arrow. Up arrow makes us jump, and the space bar does that. Let's have a look. So, oh, not the up arrow, W. W. The up arrow will be useful on the other one. Let's have a look. Yep, so up arrow, pressing the W here, and then we got left and right, and then space kicks. That's perfect. Perfect. Good. Now, there we go. Now that's good. That's perfect. That's okay. And we could keep it at that if we wanted to, but at the moment, if I hold down the space bar, then he keeps on kicking. Now we don't really want that, because otherwise it's not really fair. Otherwise he'd just be constantly kicking. So what we'll say instead is, if the space key is pressed, repeat, do that, do that, do that, and then what we'll do is we'll just be clever. We will put a wait in here. There we go. Inside of the if statement, actually. Wait until the space bar is not pressed. So that hopefully will mean, there you go. So you kick up there. Good. And excellent. So this time around now, you can only kick, every time you press space bar, it'll only kick then. Which is great. Brilliant. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a ball. So click on New Sprite. Click on the soccer ball. There we go. There's our soccer ball, or football to the rest of us. And it's a bit big, so we'll click on the shrink tool and we'll make it a bit smaller. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to apply velocity, gravity using the velocities like we did before. So what we do is when start clicked, add another forever loop, and what we want to say is forever if we are above this line, which is 100 and let's say about 150, if our x coordinate is greater than minus 150, so if we do the greater than, if our x coordinates, not the x position, say y position because it's up and down. If our y position is greater than minus 150, so in other words it's not touching the floor, if our y position is greater than minus 150, then we're going to change the velocity of the ball. So ball y velocity, ball y velocity, and we'll change it by -1. There we go. So if we're greater than 150, we change the ball y velocity by -1, and we There we go. And then we will move, change our Y position by whatever our Y velocity is. Let's see what happens there. We run that. There we go. So perfect. So now we have a ball that starts to drop. There we go. Good stuff. But having a ball that drops is not a great amount of use. In fact, I better set it to 0 at the start of the game because it needs to bounce off that floor. So how's that going to work? Well, it's going to go down, 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 down. As soon as it touches, as soon as it goes below minus 150, then it needs to go back up with the same velocity, but inverse. So if its velocity is minus 23 a time, then it needs to go to plus 23. So how do we do that? Well, what we do, here we go, is we say if our Y position is less than 150, if our Y position is less than 150, let's move that out of the way, less than minus 150, then we change our velocity, but we don't change it this time. What we do is we set it, and we do something clever. We set it to, there we go, minus whatever the velocity is. So that should hopefully make it bounce. There we go. Good stuff. There we go. Now, which is okay, which is all very well and good. But as you can see, it's going to keep bouncing for quite a while. And the reason is there's no drag on it. So what we will say is here, if it does touch the floor, every time it touches the floor, what we do is whatever we change it to there, we just need to put a little bit of drag on it by moving that in there and saying -1. There we go. So if it bounces down at 20, so it's coming down minus 20, it'll go up at plus 19. So let's have a look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's have a look. In fact, we'll just change it to -140 because it seems to be a little bit low there, doesn't it? -140. It seems to be bouncing above the floor. There we go. Perfect. Now, that's almost there, except that, if you look at this, there we go. It just starts to fall down, doesn't it? There we go. Okay, so what we need to do here is, what's happening is when it gets to down here, it starts behaving a little bit funny. And the reason is this bit here with this bit here where it sets it to -1. That'll only work if it's actually velocity's got a minus velocity. So what we need to say first of all here is we need to say, so if the position is less than -140, and then we also do another one here where we do if the ball velocity is less than 0. So if it's less than 0, if the ball Y velocity is less than 0, then we swap it, and hopefully that might fix it. Let's have a quick look. There you go, perfect. So we only switch it to the minus velocity if it's less than 0. Which is brilliant, and that should now fix it. Let's have a quick test. As always with these things, we test it a few times. That's fine. Let's bounce that there. Good stuff. And we might be able to get away with now changing the damping there. If we change that to 3, it should stop bouncing as quickly. Okay, so what we need to do here is we just need another one here, because when it gets to a really small value, it's not quite working. So what we really want to say here is, if we are underneath that line of less than -140, if our velocity is a small value but not less than 0, let's say less than 3, then we just need to stop the ball. And that's the best way. Let's try that now. Let's see if that works. There you go. So it's bouncing down. There you go. And it stops. There we go. That's good enough. And we'll leave the first part of this tutorial here. And next time we're going to move on to getting the ball, when we press the space bar, to kick the ball from where it is over to the other side of the screen, depending on which angle it's going. That's going to take a bit of trigonometry, and it should take about another 15-20 minutes. And there we go.